Okay, gents, let's focus on the Euro 2020 final. Let's preview it. England against Italy at Wembley Stadium. Italy haven't won the Euros since 1968. England have never won it. What are we looking tactically heading into this game? Nick Mendola, lead us off with this.
Oh God, tactically, I'm not positive what we're going to see. I mean, England gives us a clue that it's going to be pragmatic, that it's going to be sensible. But Italy has surprised on occasion. It's funny that we may look at a game where England is in the Italian role a little bit more defensively, and Italy may go after them. I'm excited to see what Lorenzo Insigne might do, what Chiesa might do. This is a really interesting dynamic tactically, where I almost want to say it's less about tactics and more about those Jims and Joes over the X's and O's, because I mean, Italy was in a terrible position not too long ago. Two straight group stage outs at a World Cup, failing to qualify for a World Cup as well. There's a random runner-up finish. I want to say it was Euro 2012, but other than that, it's been what? And so this is a nation also letting go of sort of or reclaiming the glory. That will be the story, whoever wins this, right? Whether it comes home or it was just a pit stop, one of these big names is going to be celebrating. And tactically, I almost want to throw it back at you guys. I don't know. Other than England, I don't know what Italy's going to do.
Andy, what do you think? Because personally, I'm thinking Italy may not be able to keep that high press that served them so well early on in the tournament against England. And they tried to do it against Spain, but realized they couldn't. Yeah. And Roberto Mancini said, that's our plan, to high press in this exciting, high-tempo game. But they almost, I want to say, reverted to type a little bit against Spain. And they could still do that side of it as well, with Chiellini and Bonucci and Donnarumma back there holding things firm. But what do you think about this game tactically?
I think they're going to have just as much trouble with the press against England. Let's go right up the spine of that England team. Jordan Pickford with the ball at his feet, really good. John Stones, Harry Maguire with the ball at their feet, really good. Declan Rice, Calvin Phillips with the ball at their feet, really good. Mason Mount underneath Harry Kane dropping into the midfield, both really good with the ball at their feet. A lot of really good technical players who can pick a pass, who can see the pass, and who can deliver it and spring a chance from absolutely nothing. And so to me, it's really going to be about kind of it always comes down to the midfield battle, right? That sounds like the thing that everybody always says, but when you compare the styles of these two teams, so much of what they want to do rides on the two in midfield for England, the two sitting deep, and then the three in there for Italy. And I think a couple of weeks ago, I called that trio there for Italy probably the best group in the entire tournament. And they have gone out and they've just absolutely dominated the last couple of games. And so, they have proven that they are at, collectively at least, a genuinely world-class level. And so it's going to be Harry Kane, for me, dropping into the midfield, bringing those numbers either even for England or giving a slight advantage when they're in possession, and the runners out wide. If he's able to drop in, get on the ball, and split a pass through three defenders like he did for the first goal for England against Denmark, that's a Riquelme pass. And Harry Kane is a number 9. He is a striker his entire life, and he dropped one of the most perfect passes that you could play in a semifinal, trailing, against Denmark. Is just, the well-roundedness and complete game that he has. I think makes him, the player that you have to look to and say, if England are going to win the final, he's going to have a really, really strong game. And not because he's going to score goals. It's going to be his influence everywhere else on the field. That's what we saw all season with Tottenham. That's what we didn't see through the group stage. That was the most frustrating thing for England, was you've got the blueprint for how to maximize Harry Kane, how to make him just absolutely incredible and put up the gaudy numbers that he did this season, and they weren't doing it. And then they got to the knockout rounds. They did it, and look what's happening. So if he can pull the center backs out of position as well, I don't think they're going to be, tricked into dropping into midfield and leaving space, the experience that they have, but they're certainly going to try.
Yeah, and I think quite simply, it's been about personnel around Harry Kane. I mean, the switch to bring Bukayo Saka in, that's worked extremely well. Him and Sterling stretch defenses. They make them run into positions and backtrack where they don't want to be. And that just opens up a lot more space for Harry Kane. And England didn't quite have that early on. They've kind of eased themselves into this tournament. They felt a bit sorry for Kane. Like, they had 2 or 3 centre-backs on him the entire tournament for the group stage, pretty much. But not that he's not used to that, but I think he just works, as you said, dropping deeper, having players run in behind so he can feed them, get himself in the box to finish off chances. And it all just kind of clicks into gear, or that's the way it seemed with Saka and Sterling, right?
He can physically dominate any central midfielder in the world because of his size and his strength and his hold-up play, and then the technical ability that he's got. But when you've got a center back or 2 or 3, on your back the entire game, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more difficult to have that kind of influence. So when he drops in, and that's just another reason. His close control, his touch is really good. He can manipulate and control and carry the ball like a midfielder with a 6'2" frame that's really, really solid and sturdy. So he just, such a complete player.
And he's come to life at the perfect time for England at this tournament, as England fans would say at least. And everyone around Wembley before the semi-final was like, Harry Kane's going to score the winner. He's going to score the winner. I bet none of them had Harry Kane's going to score the winner off a rebound off a missed penalty kick. But that was very England to ramp up the tension there in the semi-final. Nick, talking about England, the tactics, we've seen them switch between a 3-4-3 and a 4-2-3-1. I want to call it that. What would you do for them? Would you take on Italy with the high press and come flying out of the traps if you're England? Because I think they could get some joy there. They come out early on and maybe catch Italy by surprise. But again, this is an Italian team that showed they're flexible against Spain and are 33 games unbeaten and last lost the game in 2018. So they obviously know what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm going after their left side. I think regardless of what formation you go in, and honestly, I feel bad because I think people are treating Emerson like he's not a good player. Because he's not a full-time starter at Chelsea. And when he scored last year, remember, it was like the full team celebration over, Emerson scored. This is still a very good player. But I think you're crazy to think they won't be attacking. It's probably the one area of, if you're going to call it a weakness, that Italy has right now. I think you have to create chances that are clear-cut and extremely dangerous, because Donnarumma has been wonderful. And he's had if you look at their goal, Italy's goal against Spain, he restarts play quickly with a perfect little rollout. Obviously he stops the penalty as well. Remember, this guy's been starting for AC Milan since he was 17, 18 years old. He's packed a lot and learning under the other Gigi Buffon, who, in my opinion, is a top 2 goalkeeper, at least that I've watched ever. So I think it's about where England creates those chances, because they have players who can do it, but you need something special to get behind this defense, and then you need something special to beat Donnarumma. And that's one of the few clear advantages that I think Italy has. Not that a goalie versus a goalie is an advantage. And Jordan Pickford's been as good as he's been in a while. There's something about him putting on that 3 Lions shirt that looks a whole lot more confident than the Everton shirt. But I do think Donnarumma gives them that advantage.
I think when you look at Sterling, maybe he's obviously been the player of the tournament for me. Definitely for England, and probably the entire tournament. When he's come up with key goals and key moments in pretty much every single game that England have needed him to so far. I would say, does he start on the right maybe? Does Southgate make that change to go up against Emerson and say, you know what, because they did switch it in the semi-final, and he said they wanted to get at Vestergaard at Denmark and get at the centre-backs. And I think that could be a key part of the plan. And just want to say a shout out to both managers here. Roberto Mancini, brilliant job, changed the philosophy. He said it wasn't possible about the players from day one, saying we want to try something a bit different and a bit un-Italian, if you will. We're going away from the defensive style and ushering in this new high tempo. So great job he's done. But Gareth Southgate, I mean, he's got pretty much every single decision, tactic, formation, personnel choice, spot on. They've only conceded 1 goal from a worldie of a free kick. And, even when he's bringing on Jack Grealish and the fans want him to start, when he's taking him off to go back to a back 3, just getting it right. And for me, I think Bukayo Saka has to start, Sterling has to start, and that would really open up this Italian defence down the flanks. And then it's up to Harry Kane to finish off the chances. But But Andy, what would it mean to either of these nations to win this tournament? What can you put into context? As Nick said earlier, Italy have been through a tough time. England have never won it, so this is a big deal for both of these countries.
Yeah, it's narrative wise, it's really interesting because I think historically these are probably two national teams that are pretty easy to dislike, right? England for all the talent that they've had over the years, just kind of the way that the English stars, get put onto a pedestal early in their careers, and then the media and the tabloids decide to tear them down, and so they become less likable figures and everything. I'm thinking about the teams of my lifetime, at least. And then Italy, a little bit for the style of play, a little bit for some of the shenanigans on the field. And they're probably the two most likable teams in terms of the personnel and the way that they play at this tournament. And so what I've seen a lot on social media is people really trying hard to still dislike and hate both of these teams. And it's just really difficult to do, I think, because of the way that they have attacked this tournament, no pun intended there, and the way that they have played and how good they have been, just the joy that those two teams specifically have brought to this tournament. So in a way, it's a couple of teams that you almost never want to see win, but at this tournament specifically with these squads, it's two teams that you don't really want to see either of them lose.
Nick, you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean it's spot on in the sense that I think both teams are also not nothing like, but very different from their reputations. The one thing that I look about as changing a narrative, England changes the narrative by winning, right? England changes the narrative because they've won, and the alsos became the did, and we've seen it in baseball with the Chicago Cubs and the Boston Red Sox, right? When the team that's been waiting so long, even Andy, right, in Kansas City, the Chiefs waited a long time to between Super Bowl appearances, let alone wins. I look at what Italy's been able to do. This has been a fire at will Italy, 18 shots per game, and that's second in the tournament. England's 20th, and you think, right, that doesn't seem right. But when you go to shots on target, Italy's only putting 5 on target a game. England is putting almost half of their shots on target. They're working the ball around. They're being arguably more of a Premier League team than we've seen them in a long time. I don't know if that makes sense because there's so many different styles there. But for me, watching England is like watching a Premier League attack on many occasions.
Definitely. And I want to say about the significance, obviously, as an Englishman, watching England at Wembley, it's emotional, it's inspirational to see what this team is doing, both on the pitch and off the pitch. You said it, this team is very hard to dislike when they are, Southgate as well. They are all talking out on social issues, trying to battle injustice and racism, and taking a knee before every game, and even some of their own supporters aren't in support of that. They have stood tall on and off the pitch throughout this tournament, throughout the last few months as a group, and you have to give them huge credit for that. And it feels like a club environment. It feels like they all play on the same Premier League team, and England have never had that. When you go back to the golden generation, of Beckham and Scholes and Lampard, Gerrard, it was always those club cliques. But here, you can tell the fan base and the team are all united. You can see them singing Sweet Caroline together after the semi-final winning against Denmark. Just incredible scenes. And when I was looking around Wembley, I took a moment to look at the flags, the St. George's flags spread all across the stadium. And, the club names are emblazoned on those flags. And it's Morecambe, it's Macclesfield, it's Scunthorpe, it's, cities and clubs in England that they're not watching Premier League football week in, week out. Their team is never going to win a big trophy or probably ever be in the Premier League. So this is their moment for glory. This is their moment to support a team that actually wins something. And that means so much to fans all over the country. And it does feel like the momentum and everything's kind of aligning for England here on home soil against Italy in a final, pretty much a home crowd. I'm not going to say it's coming home yet. You're not going to get me there yet. You've been trying for the entire month, but it is very close to coming home. It's 90 minutes away from doing that. So I'm going to go with my prediction. I think that Italy are going to win on penalty kicks.
So do I.
That's just the way it works. I'm afraid, as an England fan. And I think the 1 day less of rest for England will actually come back to hit it pretty hard. Italy made a lot of subs early in the semi-final. England did not. And I think that may actually just be the difference. And Italy have a little bit more experience with Bonucci, Chiellini, Jorginho. I think in these big games, they just kind of know how to get over the line. But who wants to go next on their prediction? And please, like, someone tell me I'm wrong.
I'll change it a little bit. I'll have Italy winning 2-1. I think England will find a way past, and I think it might even be the first goal of the game. But over the 90 minutes, I just haven't seen Italy look like this.
Yeah, I picked England before the tournament, so they're in the final for the first time in 55 years. In case you haven't heard, I'm not changing my pick now. Maybe I've willed it into existence, so I'm going to say we're going to have an incredible final, 3-2 to England, and it's going to go back and forth, and that, even more so than penalty kicks, is going to give you heart problems, Joe. Just the nature of the game, but England come out on top.
Well, if that happens, then you can find me on a lamppost in London somewhere for pretty much the rest of the summer, because the celebrations are going to be wild. We'll have you covered here on Pro Soccer Talk and NBCSports.com. Euro 2020 final, Italy against England at Wembley Stadium. It's going to be brilliant. Two huge nations, pretty much a home tournament for England. So it's a host nation hosting it. A perfect scenario for UEFA for this big, big game. And we will have you covered across all the platforms. Yeah, I'm already nervous, but it's going to be a good one. I cannot wait to see that play out on English soil.